We're very excited to present the results of the cohort 3 of the Trophy U01 trial. This was a phase 2 trial looking at the combination of sacituzumab govitecan, we call it SG, and it's an antibody-drug conjugate against TROP2, which is expressed in urothelial cancer cells, linked with SN38, the active metabolite of irinotecan. This antibody-drug conjugate was combined with pembrolizumab, anti-PD-1, in patients with platinum-refractory immunotherapy-naive urothelial cancer in the second-line setting. So it's important to note that many of those patients had early progression to prior platinum-based chemotherapy, and half of them got prior platinum-based chemotherapy for neoadjuvant or adjuvant setting, and half in the frontline setting of advanced urothelial cancer. And the response rate to prior platinum-based chemotherapy for those patients with metastatic disease who got first-line platinum chemo was only 15%. So very difficult to treat population, platinum refractory to a degree. Despite this, I would say significant negative selection, right, based on patients who usually do not do well, we saw an objective response rate of 34%, with 14 out of 41 responses, 1 CR, 13 PRs, and additional 11 patients with stable disease, with a clinical benefit rate of 61%. And as you saw in the presentation, about 2/3, 63% of the patients had reduction in the tumor size on the scans. Toxicity was as expected based on the individual toxicity profile of SG and pembrolizumab, with diarrhea being one of the most common any grade adverse events, and also neutropenia, anemia, fatigue were some others. I want to point out that there were 4 out of 41 patients who enrolled in the study, so 10% received oral steroids, which is consistent with what we know with pembrolizumab. So there was no increase in the systemic steroid requiring immune-related adverse event rate, and there were no new safety signals as opposed to what we know for each individual drug alone, SG and pembrolizumab. So the combination was feasible. The toxicity was manageable. Of course, we always keep a close eye on patients regardless of what treatment they receive. And I think in terms of the next steps here, this combination is not ready for prime time yet. This data are not practice changing. However, I think they are very encouraging and very promising to further support evaluation of this combination pembro plus SG or checkpoint inhibition plus SG in general in this platinum refractory setting, but also in earlier lines of therapy, maybe in the frontline setting with a maybe a platinum naive population, maybe something to consider. In terms of additional next steps, we are doing a lot of work with the existing Trophy U01 trial. We'll look at cohort 2, which is a SG alone in the second line setting after checkpoint inhibitor. And also we have cohort 4 and 5. That's, I would say, an interesting story because it's still ongoing, of course, still very early. We're accruing patients, but we're evaluating SG combined with cisplatin in the cohort 4 in the induction phase, followed by SG plus avelumab maintenance, and we'll see whether this first-line treatment has promise in the future. We'll have the cohort 5 where we add avelumab in the induction phase as well. So these cohorts are ongoing. We do not have data yet. We're excited about the program. We're going to look at biomarkers further in the cohort 3 and other cohorts of the Trophy study. And also, we're going to have longer follow-up for survival events. The median PFS on the cohort 3, the data I told you about today, was 5.5 months, and the median time to response was 2 months. However, with a median follow-up of about 6 months, the median duration of response and median overall survival were not reached yet. So we're going to have longer follow-up to evaluate those parameters. Of course, this is a single-arm phase 2 study, not randomized study, but still I think important to place in the context of the evolving landscape. And again, based on the difficult-to-treat population that made up the cohort of these 41 patients, I think the objective response rate of 41% and the, I would say, clinical benefit rate that exceeded 60%, I think is promising for the future. So thank you so much for the attention. Very excited about ASCO GU 2022. Stay safe, everybody.